They say there are some mornings that split your life in two, the kind you never see coming. For me, it was the day the ground itself started to shake right outside my bedroom window, long before the sun had any business being up. You want to know what real bone-deep annoyance is? Try waking up to the sound of bulldozers chewing through your woods at 6:15 on a Saturday. There I was, groggy as hell, pillow over my head, trying and failing to outlast that backup beeping that clawed at my brain. I was this close to slipping back under when I heard it, a sharp, clean crack, unmistakable. A tree going down. That jolted me straight out of bed, blood pounding, heart in my throat. Stumbling to the window, I didn't expect to see what I saw. My backyard, a place I'd bought for its peace, was crawling with heavy equipment. 3 bulldozers, an excavator, a dozen guys in hard hats. My trees were falling, the ground torn up. All that land, my land, was supposed to be mine alone, a little patch of privacy 5 years in the making. I barely remembered pulling on pants or even a shirt. I just barreled outside barefoot in the cold, damp grass, yelling like a man possessed. "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" I was waving my arms, not even caring how crazy I looked. A man in a crisp white hard hat turned to me, almost bored. "We're building the connector road, sir. Please stand back for your safety." Connector road? What connector road? "This is my property." I pointed at my house, my trees. Anything that might snap him out of that bureaucratic trance. He barely glanced at me, flipping through a clipboard. "We've got all the necessary permits, sir. Approvals from Willow Creek Estates HOA. Construction schedule's been posted for 3 months. That's when I realized just how far out of the loop I was. I never approved this. I'm not even part of Willow Creek Estates. My voice was cracking, half rage, half desperation. The foreman gave me the corporate shrug. "You'll need to take it up with the HOA board. We're just following our contract." Back inside, hands shaking, I called the HOA Willow Creek Estates, the same people I'd gone out of my way to avoid by buying early before their development bulldozed its way across the county line. Took 3 tries to get someone. Margaret, sharp and icy as a January wind, answered. I laid out the whole mess, strangers tearing up my woods claiming HOA authority. She didn't even blink. "Yes, Mr. Anderson, the connecting road project was approved by the board last fall. Notices were sent to all affected property owners." "I'm not an affected property owner. I'm not in your HOA, and I never got any notice." She sighed. "According to our records, your property was incorporated into our jurisdiction when the Phase 3 expansion was approved by the county." That was a punch in the gut. "That's impossible. I bought this place before your development was even a thought." "Maybe you should attend our meetings if you want to stay informed," she said, polite as poison. I saw red. "Stop the construction right now or I'm calling the police." "That's your right, Mr. Anderson. Our permits are in order." And just like that, she hung up. 20 minutes later, Officer Jenkins was in my yard boots, muddy, reading through the permits like he'd done this 100 times. "I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson. Looks like everything's in order. This is a civil matter. If you want to fight it, you'll need to talk to the county or get a lawyer." "How can this be legal?" I asked, practically pleading. "They're building a road through my property. I never gave them permission." He pointed out a section of the permit. "There's an easement here granted back in the 70s. Did you check for easements when you bought the land?" I thought back, too focused on escaping city chaos, too eager to walk my own trail, not nearly careful enough reading the fine print. Maybe the realtor said something about a utility easement but never a road. By the end of the weekend, my so-called private woodland was a churned-up construction site. Trees gone ground-scarred. I felt like a fool and a victim all at once. Monday morning, I went straight to the county planning office. Greg, the guy behind the desk, barely looked up from his lunch menu to scroll through my file. "Yep, says here there's an old utility and transportation easement never activated until Willow Creek bought the adjacent land." He turned the monitor so I could see it. Sure enough, delivery confirmation on the notices. I'd probably toss them thinking they were junk mail or another tax statement. "But they can't just build a road," I argued. Greg's voice was pure bureaucracy. "The easement permits utilities and a road along this corridor. The HOA did everything by the book. Isn't there anything I can do?" He shrugged. "Not unless you want to spend a lot of money for maybe no result. Lawyers told me the same." Diana Ray, property rights expert, didn't sugarcoat it. "The easement's legit." "Paul." They followed procedure. "You could fight, but the odds are against you. Unless what?" I asked. She smiled just a little. "The easement lets them build the road, but it doesn't say you can't manage how it's used. For example, nothing says you can't put up a gate as long as you're not blocking access outright." Something clicked. Suddenly I had an idea. If I couldn't stop the road, maybe I could at least control it. That whole week I obsessed reading about gates, tolls, legal gray areas. Turns out there's a lot you can do if you're accommodating rather than obstructing. By Saturday, as the construction crew wrapped up the first phase, a dirt track straight through my trees, I was ready. Called my buddy Owen. We hit the hardware store, loaded up on lumber concrete hardware. Sunday afternoon, we'd built a gate right across the new road just inside my property line, and a little booth with a sign, Anderson Private Road Toll, $5 per crossing. Owen shook his head, grinning. You sure about this HOA's gonna flip? I'm just following the easement, I said. Nothing says access has to be free. Monday morning, the circus started. Crew showed up, found their path blocked. The foreman looked ready to explode. What is this? We need to work. I sat at my toll booth, mug of coffee in hand. That's $5 a vehicle. Or a weekly pass for $25. They threatened to call their manager, their lawyer, the governor, for all I cared. But by 8:30, some guy named Jake just shrugged, handed over a $5, and drove through. Jake, what the hell, the foreman shouted. Jake just laughed. I'm getting paid either way. Not arguing with this guy all day. Pretty soon everyone was paying up. Even residents from Willow Creek, the ones promised a shortcut, rolled up and paid, grumbling the whole way. Then she arrived. Patricia Westfield, president of the HOA, pulled up in a black SUV, hair immaculate, anger radiating. Mr. Anderson, what do you think you're doing? Good morning. Just managing access to the road that crosses my property. This is obstruction. Not at all. The gate opens for $5. Or a weekly pass. Her face turned red. This is public access. I smiled. The easement requires access, not that it be free. She called their lawyer. By mid-morning, Tyler, the HOA's attorney, arrived, papers in hand, nervous sweat on his brow. Mr. Anderson, you're contradicting the intended purpose of the easement. But not the letter, I replied. I maintain rights as the landowner. Patricia fumed. Tyler hedged, but nobody could find the clause that said I had to give up all control. We'll need to clarify this with the county, Tyler admitted. Fine, I said. In the meantime, tolls $5 cash or Venmo. The rest of that week, my little gate became the talk of the neighborhood. Some people laughed, some cursed, some brought coffee in solidarity. Channel 8 News showed up. Isn't it unfair to charge for a community road, the reporter asked. Unfair, I said, is having a road bulldozed through your land without your say. I'm just making the best of a bad hand. Some folks called me a hero, some a jerk, but every day people paid. The HOA filed complaints, organized protests. They brought out residents with signs, stop the toll troll, public roads for public use. I waved, handed out flyers about property rights. Protesters didn't like that. Patricia stepped up her campaign. Flyers, boycott attempts, anything to make the toll booth go away. She told people to use the old route, but after a week of longer drives, most came back $5 in hand. A month and my attorney called. The HOA wanted to settle. $2,000 if you take down the gate. I laughed. Not about the money. It's about respect, compensation, and a say in what happens to my land. A day later, Patricia showed up with a better offer: public apology, privacy, trees, $5,000. And the gate comes down, she said. Not enough, I told her. I want written acknowledgement of my property rights, formal consultation on future decisions, the right to close the gate overnight for security. She balked, but Olivia Russell, new board member, reasonable, stepped in. We'll do it, she said, as long as emergencies are allowed. Deal. I got everything in writing, signed at a board meeting. Patricia's hand shook so hard I thought she'd rip the paper. The next day I took down the booth, put up a nice new gate. The HOA planted evergreens, put up a discreet sign, Anderson Pass, closed midnight to 5 a.m., emergency call box available. And then things changed. Other property owners started reaching out. The HOA actually asked my opinion on road improvements. Olivia reformed their communication policies. Patricia stepped down. Word was she'd had enough embarrassment. A year later, Anderson Pass was just a road, but one with trees, privacy, and a story. I hosted a barbecue, neighbors from both sides laughing, sharing food. Someone joked about building their own toll booth. You should have seen the HOA's face, they said. First time anyone stood up to them and won. I shook my head. I didn't win. I just made a point. Sometimes you have to get creative to keep your dignity and your rights. A few years down the line, the county wanted to widen Anderson Pass. The new HOA president called me first. Before we say yes, what do you think, he asked. Not interested in losing more land, I replied. Understood, we'll focus elsewhere. A simple conversation, but it meant everything. My property, my say. Even Patricia, years later, dropped by to say goodbye before moving away. She grumbled but admitted, the trees look good. Better than a bare road. Not long after Willow Creek had its 10-year festival, they asked me to speak. I stood up, looked out over the crowd, folks who once cursed my name now nodding along. This road started as a battle, I said, but it taught us about respect, boundaries, and compromise. Even when you're forced to give ground, you don't have to give up your principles. They laughed when I mentioned the $5 fee, but the message stuck. Looking back, the toll booth was never about money. It was about drawing a line and finding a way to negotiate, not just surrender. Anderson Pass is still there, the gate still closes at midnight, and the trees are tall and full. The HOA never again tried to bulldoze past me without asking. That's the moral I learned the hard way. Sometimes the only way to get respect is to demand it with a little ingenuity, a lot of stubbornness, and yes, a toll booth if that's what it takes. Now let me ask you this. Where do you draw your line? If someone tried to steamroll your rights literally or figuratively, would you fight back or just roll over? Is it ever justified to bend the rules to defend what's yours? Or does that make you as bad as the people pushing you around? Drop your take below. Ever faced down an HOA company or anyone else trying to push you out of your own life? Share your story. Let's see where everyone stands on what's right, what's fair, and what you do when it's your land on the line.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.